as morning draws near, I rise and say my prayer. Little piece of bread to my mouth, little tea to wash it down. It's my daily tribulation, even though I'm a working man. I work so hard to make ends meet, oh yeah, with one suit and one shoe to my feet. The days are getting so hard, yeah, but I got to keep on pushing on this 9 to 5, working to stay alive. On my 9 to 5, working till sun goes down. As the sun sets in the west, I pack my things and head on home, thinking about tomorrow's journey as I try these streets alone. It's my daily tribulation, oh yeah, searching for liberation, yeah. Got to step out of Babylon, take a step to Mount Zion. The days are getting so hard, yeah, but I got to keep on pushing on this 9 to 5, working to stay alive. Oh, on this 9 to 5, yeah, working till sun goes down, sun goes down. Oh, days are getting so hard, yeah, but I got to keep on pushing on this 9 to 5, working to stay alive. Oh, on this 9 to 5, working till sun goes down, sun goes down, sun goes on this 9 to 5, yeah, working to stay alive. Oh, on this 9 to 5, yeah, working till sun goes down. Oh Lord, got to keep working, got to keep working. Oh,
I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. Our Thursday program focuses on the experiences, the work, the service of men and women who have been in the U.S. Armed Services. And this has been a co-creation by me and Colonel David Rabb, U.S. Army retired. And Colonel Rabb and I have been meeting for several months now on these Thursday shows, bringing in different voices, different ideas, different issues. And at the end of the day, recognizing the valor, the challenges, and the readiness of our people to stand for right and to stand up for our country, stand up for humanity, stand up for God. And so in recent weeks, we talked about how do we keep moving this conversation forward. And his idea is one that we are moving forward with today, and that is to bring in the voice of Yolanda Brinson, who is an ordained minister, who is a poet and author, And over the next several weeks with her, we're going to talk about the question of relationships. So let me introduce her first of all, and then come to you, Brother David, Colonel David. Author Yolanda Brinson was born in '83 to Apostle Dr. Samuel and let me open my screen for her, and Maxine Brinson. She's the eldest and only girl of 5. She learned at an early age that she had a passion for God and for helping, encouraging, and uplifting people. She's a singer, a songwriter, an author, a poet, a speaker, and much, much more. And she's been blessed with gifts that will change the world. She's traveled nationally and internationally doing motivation, organizing, equipping people, building and refurbishing foundations for businesses, for communities, for churches, as well in the spirit and as the work of the body of Christ. She's worked with many churches and schools and groups and organizations, helping, consulting by assessing and creating their plans for strategic restructuring to grow their impact and to enrich lives. She's been a licensed and ordained minister since 2011 and has dedicated her life to teaching and serving and fulfilling the call of Christ. Her book, their newest book anyway, is called Relationship Wrecked, take off from the word shipwrecked. It's a book that explains male and female behaviors, and it takes readers on a journey, helping you relate to oneself, to your friendships, to romantic relationships, to parenting, to step parenting. The book awakens a new sense of empowerment and understanding, and it does that with biblical and practical applications. It gives you tools and strategies to build and grow in relationships and in communication. Yolanda is joining us today from, I think, Kingston, from Jamaica for sure. And one of the fun facts I'm reading here is that Yolanda speaks Spanish. Well, let me put you to the test, Yolanda. Buenas tardes, ¿cómo estás? Mucho gusto en conocerle y me importa mucho que podremos hablar en inglés y también en español. Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Well, thank you for having me. I can't respond off of that. I understood a little of it. Yeah.
Got it. Well, how is Jamaica, first of all? I'm glad that we're having this conversation with you in Jamaica. Where are you in Jamaica?
I'm in Kingston right now.
Well, great. Well, thank you and welcome. I enjoyed our visit yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? I can't even remember now. Where we talked briefly, might have been a couple of days ago, about setting up this program, and this being the first of at least 3. And the romantic Colonel Rab said, we got to focus on Valentine's Day. Let's do a series of conversations to talk about relationships leading up to something that engages people around, what Valentine's Day, what love and relationships really are all about. So here we go. Brother David, how you doing? How you doing, man?
Good afternoon, Al and Yolanda, to you. I'm doing great. It's good to be alive in this year and to be around good people and family as well. Yeah, it's good.
And you and Yolanda are first cousins, right?
We are. Yep. My uncle, Uncle Bobby, deceased now, was a wonderful person and man, and he had 14 kids.
Wow.
He had 14 kids, and I always admired him because he was very capable. And as Yolanda will share with you, on the south side of Chicago, they were planted, but they moved throughout the country in terms of where family is at now, to where we're talking to Yolanda right now. I mean, they multiplied, as they say, be fruitful and multiply, and they did. And Yolanda and I, actually, we met at my uncle's funeral, one of the first times. And I still remember that last conversation that I had with him. And basically, he told me to be focused. And so as I move forward in my life, I need to keep things simple and be focused. And that's what I've been trying to do, to be true to what I do. So with that, I'm going to move it back to you, Al.
Well, thank you. And let me just go to Yolanda. I want you to introduce yourself, Yolanda. Talk about you, first of all. I've read something from the bio, and the bio I had sort of was before your marriage, so I didn't give your full name, your new name. You can share that with people. But talk about yourself, first of all, and your path to the work that you're doing today.
Okay. Let's see. You get kind of nervous when you talk about yourself. No, but I love God and I love people. And I believe that everyone is put here for a reason and for a purpose. And so I live life trying to fulfill that daily with each conversation, with each interaction, even if it means going to the grocery store. You know, sometimes you meet people in the craziest of places, you know, but you have to be open and willing to show that love to your brother and your sister that you just met. Um, as far as being married, yes. My last name is Richards now. Yes, so it's Brenton Richards. My husband is at work right now. He's the branch manager of the library here in Harborview, which is in Kingston, Jamaica. And I'm very excited to be here.
And you've got family in Jamaica too, right? Your mom is from Jamaica?
My mother's from Jamaica. And so I still have an uncle here.
I think we lost your signal for a second there. Yeah, David, you and I are still animated, but Yolanda is not at the moment. That'll
She's
come back.
From a call, right?
There we go. She's back now. So,
okay.
Yeah. So go ahead, Yolanda. Keep talking about your family in Jamaica. I'm so excited that you're joining me from Jamaica because I love Jamaica. So my family's roots, I think I told you on the phone, are in Saint Anne, a town called it's in Saint Anne's Bay, and the family has connections to Browntown, to Christiana. Our family property up in St. Mary is in a place called Dressaky, a place called Mile Gully. Got cousins in Kingston, cousins in Montego Bay, and kind of all over. So Jamaica is special to me. And Jamaica also is my connection to Cuba because my father's father, my grandfather and grandmother left Jamaica at around the turn of the century. In the 1900s and moved to Cuba, like a lot of Jamaicans did, to work on the plantations, the cane plantations in Cuba. A lot of them also went to Panama to work on the Panama Canal. So lots of Jamaicans in Panama, lots of Jamaicans in Cuba, in Honduras, and different places like that. But the whole idea of our people in the Caribbean is important to me. And I love Jamaica, so I love it that I'm talking to you, and you're in Kingston right now. So, So good to meet you.
Thank you. I've been doing ministry here. I've been coming here for 11 years, back and forth. My first connection was actually in Christiana, coming back and forth, first with the Apostolic Faith churches, then branching out to other denominations, just helping and whatever God has given me to do, speaking with a lot of leaders in a lot of different areas. So, yeah.
And talk about your training, your background. What kinds of training have you had that bring you to both the ministry and the counseling and the business development and other work, and also to your work as a musician, as an artist, as a poet? I mean, you're multifaceted, and you're bringing a suite of assets to community. That's how it sounds to me, anyway.
Yeah. Well, when it comes down to music, I get it from my dad. The creativity, I get it from my dad and my mom. My dad is actually a musician, a minstrel. He's created a lot of songs, a whole lot of songs. And I was born in smack dab in the middle of ministry, you know. and multi-generation. My grandfather, as cousin David was talking about, my grandfather, he was apostle, first bishop, and he had churches under him, and then he had schools. And then out of the 14, I think 12 of them are in ministry. So we were raised in the way, which way to go and how to deal with the people of God and the house of God and the things of God. And but when it comes down to the 14, my dad was the only one in the area of music that God used him also in that way. My dad has actually traveled all over the world. Like, I want to be like that one day. He's been all over the world. He was a part of the team that helped bring the churches in Romania back together. They did a split, and so he was a part of a team that did that. He's been all over the place. He's gotten a chance to do music all over, even in Turkey. So yeah, he's amazing. And then coming up in that, my parents raised us in the way that we should go. What God has called us to, not just, church, you're going to just be in church. They help to cultivate that which God placed inside of us. So all 5 of us know how to play instruments. Most of my brothers, they are more so geared towards percussion. And I actually have a brother that is he teaches music at Central State University. So they're more so percussion. They play the piano. My dad, he plays the piano. My main instrument was trumpet during the high school, and brass during high school. And so I began to when I was younger, before I got into the instrumental, I used to be a part of the Chicago Children's Choir. Outside of church choirs and little groups and this and that, and when your dad is over the music, they like to stick a microphone in your face, like, yeah, you get violent told what to do, but I came into my own, like, with the Chicago Children's Choir, you had they more so did show choir and they did classical. So you have your classical training there, and then when I got to high school, I had to choose between, am I going to go instrumental? Am I going to go to the Red Jackets? And so since I had done it for so many years, I decided to go instrumental. So I joined the Percy Julian Marching Band, and which was number 1 in the city at that time. And so I got a chance to work with a lot of different. They brought in artists that we got a chance to work with, and I did marching band, I did symphonic band, I did all city, I did all state, and then I continued it on. But my love for music shifted because I've always been quick with the words, or I've always been a person that tried to use my words to bring life, to mean something. I never have empty conversations. Sometimes, even when you're in childhood, where people would joke and say nasty things about each other, I never was with that. You could usually catch me sitting with the elders, sitting with the mothers. I want to know, give me wisdom. Tell me, how do you do this? And how would you do that? And then I want to say my freshman, beginning of sophomore year, the church that we attended, they had a Bible college, and the apostle of that church, he told our Sunday school teacher was a lawyer, and he told the elders that he wanted our age group to learn what they learned in Bible college. So each elder had to come to our class. All right, this is how you do this. This is how you do, where you're doing leader to leader to lay member, dealing with the community. This is how you do it. This is how you do it in grace. So we got a chance to, ask questions. We got a chance to go through that training. And also training happened in my house. My dad, musically and then spiritually. And then my mom has always worked in ministry with the children. Even when they came separate from me back to Jamaica to do a mission trip. My mother, the kids always find my mother. So my dad was over the concerts and the music, and then my mother had the children. 150 kids plus, yes, miss, I'm happy to have her, And so you get a chance to put all these pieces together that God has given, and it ends up being steps in life. So it's just been a 30 plus years of, hands-on experience. Although I accepted the title and ordination in 2011, I've been working in ministry a long time. And for many years, even in my teenage years, when they talked to me about branching out into ministry as far as becoming ordained, young or whatever, but I was well equipped. I just was like, no, just call me Yolanda. I'm okay. Just call me Yolanda. 20, just call me Yolanda. 25, I'm like, just call me, so I'm like, and then God had to reveal to me, there's certain doors that I want to open. And you're going to need that. So when I heard the Lord, I said, okay, let's go. Everybody else can say whatever they're going to say. But until I hear God, I'm not making that step. Until God says Yolanda the minister, I'm just Yolanda. Yeah, so.
And so you answered the call.
I answered the call. And I'm not putting down the phone. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I was looking at, as you're talking, my family tree and who I've got in Jamaica. And I was looking for my uncle in Christiana. And he's a minister, he died, but was just a wonderful and well-known leader in the Christianity community. And I'll pull his name up in a second because I wanted to share that name with you. I'm actually scrolling through my family tree right now as we speak, looking for it. But how are you loving Jamaica, first of all? What's your feeling? You've been there a number of years, you said.
No, I came here right before the wedding. I got here right before the wedding, but I've been coming back and forth for 11 years.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a different experience, it's different, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the journey, although it's a third world country, people are people. We all experience whatever we're experiencing. We all have experiences, although mine is different from yours. I've still gone through something, you still gone through something, so we're just making it work. And of course, I'm loving being here with my husband. Yes.
So your book, talk about your book. What was the motivation and what are the themes in Relationship Wrecked?
Okay. Well, it was just different things that God was sharing with me and showing me. Some I got a chance to sit down and see firsthand. I got a chance to see things in motion. I would say one of the chapters in there, when I talked about dealing with grief, that was one of the last chapters that I actually wrote in the book, although it's not at the end of the book. It was the last chapter that went into the book. And that chapter was written when my grandfather died. When my grandfather died, I was there to be able to see at least 14 different personalities grieve. Although it's like 60 grandkids, I get a chance to see us, but to see how people would, although they're siblings, they all are individuals. So God was showing me certain key principles that was evident throughout. And so it was just different things that God was showing me. I got a chance to, although I've experienced grief, I've lost two best friends, unexpectedly. One 9/11, and the other one, she was the first one to die. She was actually expecting. She was the first woman to die from H1N1. Wow. And so, I've experienced grief. But this was a different experience. I got a chance to sit with each one of them and allow them to talk to me where they were. One thing that is
those are the 14 children, right?
Yes, the 14 children. So I got a chance to sit with my aunties, my uncle, my father, and see how they processed this before the funeral, during the funeral, and after. I would go and just sit with them, or they would call and we would just, some of them who live out of town, I didn't really get a chance to spend a whole lot of time with them after the funeral, but I got a chance to see. And there were certain principles that God was showing me. You have to be mindful of this. You have to be careful of this. You still have to guard your heart during this time, because even during the time of grief, you will have those who will play on that.
Hmm.
Like for guys, if I can get you in your emotion,
Mm-hmm.
you're not thinking logically.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be careful, because as a female, I can see that. And that's how sometimes you get got.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, put your head on my shoulder. Oh, not saying that that's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were thinking logically, would you have done that?
Right.
So it was just a lot of different things that God was just showing me. So it was just, as I spent time with God, he just began to unwrap certain things. And I wrote what he gave me, certain things, certain principles, from young to old, from married to single, parenting, step parent. It was like, okay. And then going back to, he just kept taking me back to the word. And I kept seeing the parallel between the two. And I'm just like, oh, wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it has been my honor to write what
Mm-hmm.
God has given.
Mm-hmm.
I take no credit. I was just a vessel that was being used.
After we talked on, I think it must have been Tuesday, because today's Thursday, I went to Amazon and ordered 4 copies of your book.
Oh, thank you.
They should be arriving. I think they said arrival is tomorrow. So, and I called up my new book editor and sent him a copy of the notes we've exchanged, that I ordered these books and I want him to get the book to review it. Invited him to be on the program today, but he wasn't able schedule-wise, but he will in the future. But we'll do a review of the book. But tell me, as I read this book, relationship wrecked, what should I be looking for? How do I read this to gain your insights, as well as put my insights into the information that you are providing?
Well, it's a vast amount of information.
Mm-hmm.
It goes from relating to yourself, the relationship with others. So you have working relationships, your friendships, what we invite to us, marriage relationship, dating, engagement, parenting, dealing with the ex. It deals with a lot of different different areas of relationship.
Well, David's holding the book up. David, have you reading the book, David? Have you read it already?
I have. I had actually. I'm rereading it because I read the first time I read it was about a year ago, and I had an advanced copy because I saw it in the writing
people, right?
Yeah. So it's a wonderful book, lovely book, very spiritually driven. And also, we talk about love, and we talk about being having a calling. It's very clear, and that from reading her book, that she has the call. And so I'm gonna be quiet now. I'm gonna let y'all.
Let's keep the conversation broadened, because I'm interested in how we all approach our thoughts and feelings, and simply working with Yolanda Brinson Richards' document, right, to allow us a chance to raise critical issues. One of the things that I love about working with you, Colonel Rabb, is your history of and your training as a professional in mental health work. And it's critical that we take a different understanding and awareness of the need for counseling, and that we're all human beings and we can all use help, right? All the time. And you don't have to be sick to get help. You don't have to be crazy to get help. And but you need help. And that this gift of help is available in community, and we simply have to be smart enough, wise enough, and open enough to take counsel, take advice. And that's what you've done as a professional in service to the men and women, both that you lead, and in service to all of the troops that your team served in Afghanistan and in Iraq. And I just can't tell you how important that is and how much I value and appreciate what you've done, what you've been through, and the healing that you have brought and continue to bring to people. So that's why this is an important conversation to me. And I want to put what we say in examining the ideas in Yolanda's book in the context of your experience as a soldier, as a father, as a human being, and my experience as a writer, as a soldier, as a human being, and Yolanda's experience as a storyteller, a documenter, a translator, a vessel, right, to bring ideas and stories and experiences forth. That's the value of this meeting, I believe, and the beauty of this technology. It allows us to share these ideas. What do you think?
One thing that is very clear that comes up in her book is the challenge to get it right as it relates to grief, loss, grief and loss, and being able to rebound from that. Because as we go through life, we will experience that. And sometimes people get stuck. They get stuck. And the question for me is how to help people get unstuck, because we go through a lot. I mean, for example, I used to be the director for behavioral health for the 63rd Regional Support Command in California, and I was responsible for over 40,000 soldiers with mental health issues. Okay, and I've seen the impact that trauma has on individuals, families, communities, and I know that a lot of it has to do with how they process what they're experiencing. David Patterson, one of my good friends, and one day I, will be also speaking here. He is also a grief counselor, and he actually he's getting his PhD at the University of Chicago that focuses on trauma. And so this is like the center of gravity. We can talk about love, we can talk about war, we can talk, but one of the things that holds true is that you don't get through this experience, and that's what I'm going to scale it to. It's an experience that we all go through, and trying to help people reconcile or recalibrate their experience that works for them. One of the secrets is, you got to be you, you got to do you, and you got to be true, right, to who God has created you to be. And Yolanda, well, she's right there. She's all that. In her walk, as I'm seeing it, she didn't say that she also has written a couple books on poetry, and hopefully before we get off air, we can talk a little bit about her her poems that she, because they are also heartfelt and very beautiful. So let me move back to you, Al.
Well, let me go from there. This was really great, David, Colonel Rep. Thank you. And so you talked about trauma, and let's focus on that for a second. And because Yolanda, were talking about how 14 people were grieving, and you had a chance to look at 14 faces or 14 experiences of grieving, and that grieving, I don't know if if there's a connection between grieving and the concept of trauma. You all can answer that and show me what connection there may be or may not be. They may independently exist without a connection, but they may be connected as well. But as you were speaking about the impact of trauma in our lives, David, my thoughts went back to the original trauma. Maybe this is right or wrong, you can tell me, but is being born traumatic? Is there trauma associated with birth? And if there is, let's have that discussion. And I don't know why the thought came in my head, but I'm just throwing it out there. Is there trauma associated with birth? Is that an original? And maybe there is not. I don't know. But is there? If there is, what does that do to inform the rest of our life and how we respond to or experience trauma as living beings? What do you think? And if I'm going up the wrong tree, just say, "Hey, Al, you're off. Don't even go there." So, I'm just having a conversation. David, what do you think? And Yolanda, bring it in too.
Okay. Yeah. When I think of what you just said, I'm not going to frame it as trauma, but I will say that it is significant change that you will go through coming from the womb to Earth here, and being birthed, and we continue to go through those changes, like it or not. Yelling, saying no, 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 or being, able to be fortunate to have a birth that is free from stress and pain. And I'm not. That's outside my lane. Okay, because I think we can talk. I haven't birthed the baby, so we'll go to Yolanda on that. But the issue is, the issue is there is some type of significant change that occurs that is life enriching. At the same time, it could be life threatening, depending on the situation in which we come into it. So change is a significant undercurrent to this life that we come into, because we all go through change, and most of us are still going through, and will go through some major change, such as having to rebirth ourselves or recreate ourselves to make sense of the mission in which we come here on this earth for. So, Yolanda, what are your thoughts?
I would look at birth as not a trauma, but a testimony. That even in conception of how do you conceive? There was a fight for the sperm to reach the egg. There was a fight. There was a fight during the first trimester. There was a fight during the birthing process. But each time you come out victoriously. You came out on top. You came out alive and with life. And I think that that's just a beginning. That's just showing us the beginning of when you get into life, there's a fight. You're going to always have to fight something, seen and unseen. Things that come to fight against your destiny. Fear. You have to fight fear. You have to fight doubt. You have to fight, the past pains and hurt. You have to fight through it. But to understand that there is life on the other side. So to me, it would be more so a view of a testimony. I made it and I can make it again. If I still have life, this is a testimony that even though I went through the fight, I'm here. I'm breathing. I can do what I'm still put here to do. I still have breath to do what I need to do. So that's my view on it. I wouldn't look at it as a trauma. I would look at the testimony.
All right.
Go to the word grief. David mentioned that, and you said you had a chance to observe and learn about grief because you had 14 faces of grief, meaning the 14, your dad and his sisters and brothers grieving your grandpa. What does grief mean to you? And what is the impact of grief? And I raised the question earlier about the impact or the relationship between grief and trauma. And they may not necessarily be related. There may be places where grief and trauma intersect. And I think about that when I think about you as a warrior, David as a soldier, and the people that are experiencing the trauma of war and the grieving that is part of their healing process. Yolanda, you talked about grieving that wasn't necessarily predicated on a physical combat, but a life, that a person lived, and the impact of that person's departure creating grief or people experiencing grief. So talk about what grief is and what it means and what you observed, because I think that's wonderful that you can articulate that you had the gift and the opportunity, of examining this process with maybe with a different spirit. I'm not sure if that's the right word or not, but respond to the general thrust of the question, if you would, Yolanda.
I would say one of the things that I got a chance to see is grief hits everyone a little different. Although they were experiencing the pain and the loss, they internalized it differently and they externalized it differently. And that another thing that I noticed is everybody has their time frame and their season in which they need to grieve. I can't tell you get over it tomorrow. I cannot. I can't tell you to get over it 2 years from now. The impact that it has had is the impact that it has had. The question is, do you grow from where you are? Can you go from where you are? Or do you stay in that place of grief? For some, I saw some be so badly impacted that the hurt somewhat turned into kind of like if you get a wound and you don't care for it properly, it turns infectious, and you could begin to bleed on other people in other situations, and you lash out in different ways that you didn't even realize or it doesn't even call for. And you have to stop and ask yourself, why am I here? You're here because you're hurting. It's time to take. And I saw some cover it up with spirituality. And I'm like, yeah, natural and spiritual. Naturally, take some time to heal. Don't run back to your pulpits and say, well, I'm the pastor. The church, let some other leadership do what they need to do. Take some time to heal. Take some time to grieve. Because you begin to show that what's on the inside eventually comes out. And sometimes it comes out across the pulpit. Sometimes it comes out in conversation. Sometimes it comes out in a shutdown and a shut out, where you refuse to deal. You're in that place of denial. You're in that place of, well, I'm all right. No, it's okay to say I'm not all right. It's okay to say I'm broken. It's okay to say I feel. There was a time I remember I had a friend that betrayed me deeply. The type of friend, and you're there for them all the time, and you have expended yourself in so many different areas. And the one thing that I don't play with is my name and my character. I'm me, and I've always been me. And so this individual had done something deepening, like deeply cutting. And I had to sit down with God and say, God, I feel ... I can't even put into words how it is that I feel. I feel broken. I feel angry. I feel pain. And I feel like there's so much more behind that. And as I'm being honest with God, I saw him mend the pieces. When I say, God, look, it's broken, I don't pretend that it's still together. God, I don't know how I'm holding the pieces together. And I saw him receive the pieces from me, put me back together, and present me back, as a vessel to be used. And sometimes, well, with that grieving process, we have to be in that place to say, I am broken. I am hurting. I am this event did something to me. I don't know all the stuff that it does to me, but it did something to me. And sometimes it may require psychiatric help. It may require even just, calling up a friend and saying, this is how I feel. Sometimes you might need to journal and say that conversation with God and say, God, I feel dot, dot, dot. I can't put into words how I'm feeling. Well, I miss this individual, and like you have those that, they heal and then they expect for you to be healed in the time in which they've been healed. And you kind of like, no, you're healed. Encourage, love, and pray for those who are still bleeding. Be that medicine. Be the balm. Be the balm that brings on the healing. Don't, but I saw certain things, like I've seen, where I'm hurting and you should be hurting too. And then you had those that was upset because this one took the time to grieve and they seem that they're doing well. You forget all about him. It's like, no, their process is their process. Your process is your process. And it's all okay. I'm going to love you through it. Whether you are at you cross that finish line or you still at the beginning, I'm going to love you through it. And that's one thing that I saw that all 14 needed was that love, the compassion. Nobody needed judgments from me. They didn't need my judgment. Sometimes they needed my ear, but my ear came from a place of compassion. My ear came from a place of love. My ear comes from a place of patience. Some people needed prayer. That comes from a place of compassion, love, and patience. So it's just like, no, I have to be that vessel. Even when, yes, I'm grieving granddaddy. Yes, I'm grieving this individual, but come on, we can do this together. I'm with you. Sometimes you need to hear that. You're not in this by yourself. Although my experience or my grief is not the same as your grief, we both experience grief. So you lean on me, I'm gonna lean on you, and we gonna do this. So that that uplifting. So I got the chance to see all of it. You know, and some are still in the healing process, and that's
Right.
and that's okay. If they want to sit with me and reminisce, we can do that. All right, let's talk. You know, but yeah, I didn't really take that much time.
You did good. I think this issue close to the grief is how to make peace with what you're going through, because some people don't, and they become sour based on an experience or some incident that came up, and again they get stagnated or paralyzed in that, and that becomes part of their um, personality because they don't let it go. And one of the things that I've learned in my process is that that life is bringing in and letting go. It's a steady process of bringing in and letting go, right? When we can't let go, we can be impacted physically, high blood pressure, diabetes, depression, you go on and on. And some of that is because people holding on. They can't let go, right? They don't know how to let go. And so this issue of and this is important to have ministers in the house, because that's their role, is to help guide the process and helping us let go of things, right? We get stuck, when we get stuck, because I think that, this is what we're going through it's normal. It's normal to face death. It's normal to be depressed. It's normal to get angry. It's normal to have all the emotions that God has given us to express ourselves as human beings. It's normal. And when people do not recognize that it's just the process of going through, they hold on to it. I have a close family person in my family. I'm gonna talk about that person. All right, I'm going to talk. And that part of it is again, if you can't let go, it impacts your personality, right? And the personality, a person who's vibrant and beautiful, et cetera, they're being brought down because they refuse to let go. They refuse to grow, right? Because that's what it's about. I believe that's the process of uh, receiving, experiencing, and letting go. And how we get through that process is an individual process. It's an individual way, but grief and loss has taken a lot of people out, has taken a lot of people down, and actually, part of it it's an epidemic, and especially as we're dealing with the COVID and all, we have to have the courage to say, "I need help," or to point someone in the right direction of help. You doing this by yourself, or it's only impacting you and nobody understands you, and you're suffering. It doesn't have to be like that, right? One of the things that I've learned in my walk is that, again, community is so important. Tribal, whatever you want to call it, but community heals. Isolation kills. I'm saying it again, community, being connected, talking, encouraging, getting support, getting knocked down, but getting back up. That's part of the journey, right? It's part of the journey. And we can get through. A lot of it has to be, you got to let go of what's holding you back. And that's hard because it takes courage sometimes. It takes courage to speak the truth.
Talk about trauma, because I still am looking at this question of the relationship between trauma and grief. And trauma to me is when something that maybe is preventable or unexpected, or has I'm thinking has a violent impact. Maybe violence is not the right word, but has a impact, a profound impact on an individual. I call that trauma, but maybe David, you might define what trauma is from a clinician's point of view, and define what grief is from a clinician's point of view, and talk about how trauma appears in people's lives, just in common ways, that things that happen that you would describe as traumatic. There's obvious stuff like battlefield experience or physical fight, but there are more things that traumatize people as well. What do you think, Brother David?
I think trauma is, again, it's natural. it's 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 a it's a, it's it's a it's usually something that is um, sudden,
Mm-hmm.
sudden, and that you don't see it, or you can conceive of it happening, and it happens. It catches you by surprise, and the trauma. Again, how do you process it? How do you think through it? Trauma is an assault to, I believe, the soul, right? It's something that has um, gotten so into your psyche or your spirit that it halts you, right? It stops you. It forces you to um, accept this way of not being able to process
Mm-hmm.
what just happened. Okay. And again, although it's frightening and abrupt at times, uh, it's something that comes with being alive.
Mm-hmm.
Right. How we interpret it is so important. Right.
Mm-hmm.
How we um, are able to apply it to get support, to get motivated. I mean, some people they get they take a hit and it's like, okay, I learned from it, and I'm going to adjust. But some people are not able to make the adjustment, right? It could be financially, it could be emotionally, it could be spiritually. They're not able to have it come in and come out, and so they're frozen in place.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A lot of depression comes into play. A lot of sometimes isolation. Sometimes some people will um, start acting out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some people will um, change their personality and trying to cope and deal with what that assault was.
Mhm.
One of the things that is a major assault is rape,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's something that we don't talk about uh, specifically in the Black community,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, some of that has to do with incest.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we don't talk about in the Black community or Black, Brown, Native community. We don't talk about these things. And when we don't talk about it, that's when we suffer,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have no expression. We get little support. Sometimes people are shamed. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we blame the victim, right? We don't know how to process it. We blame the victim, and that can have an impact not just on the immediate individual and the family, etc. It has an ancestral um, impact as well, and we need to consider that as well. There's so much to consider, and because a lot of times, one of the basic rules in psychology is that we learn ways of coping.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. And some of those ways can be dysfunctional. It doesn't make sense in this time and place, but it most likely could make sense in other situations to cope, to get through. And we it's a dialogue, I believe, that we need to have more of. What do you think, Yolanda?
I agree. I agree. I agree. Yeah. I agree with all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah. Let me just say pain.
Mm-hmm.
That word didn't come up yet.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of pain that is associated with it. I was in a combat stress unit for pretty much most of my career in the military, and I remember my first trauma. One of my first traumas is seeing a helicopter go down in 1975, 76 that killed about 18 Marines, right? And when I saw the helicopter go down,
Mm-hmm.
and my unit, basically, what we did, because we're disciplined, we followed the leader, and the leader basically did arm gestures because it was silence. We didn't talk, but he signaled to get down, get into position, and basically to stay there until the next order. Well, that situation took about 4 hours before the Navy could come in and bring in their team to to process this experience and to get the body bags, et cetera, out and all that. And I remember, being in this prone position for, at least 4 hours, trying to figure out what is happening,
Mm-hmm.
can't talk, et cetera. And as soon as they brought the Navy in and they got the bodies, the next hand and arm signal was to get up, move on to the objective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did. We didn't talk about it. We didn't, because at the time we were Marines. We didn't talk about it, and until it took me literally to process that experience, took me at least 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 25 years to process that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, people hold on to trauma, individually, whatever. But I know personally, I held on because I was trying to figure out what had happened still, because it's a big question mark. What just happened, right? And you're thinking, it could have been me.
Mm-hmm.
Why did it happen? Why, etc. And I still have a photo that I carry with me of one of the Marines who was the same age I was, uh, who died on a helicopter, right? I had to do my own research to, figure out, what, and that's much years later. And so there's uh, a rippling effect, a big question mark, right? Of what happened, an affront to reality, an affront to what is thought to be normal and secure, and the brain has a way of trying to make sense of things. And when we can't, then that's when we run into challenges, especially if we don't get help.
We're out of time, but I had this question. Maybe you can respond or not, Yolanda. Is your book of poetry handy? If you got a poem?
I actually took it off the shelves. Cousin David wants me to put it back. I took it off the shelves, but I actually am considering putting it back.
Okay, I was going to say, I was going to have you do a poem to close the show. Do you have one in mind, in art by heart, that you can do? Or...
No, none by heart.
Well, let me put you on the spot again. I want to hear you sing. What song?
That poem.
What song is in your mind right now?
There is no song on my mind. There's none. I'm actually looking up one of the poems.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what would. You want one from the book?
Just one. Actually, we got about 30 seconds because we're going to lose our feed here in a couple of seconds. So, something
like really long.
Okay, then let's not do it. Listen, I want to say thank you. This has been wonderful, Yolanda. Wonderful, David. We're going to come back next week, right, and continue the conversation. I think this is really rich. It's meaningful. It's important. It's real, and I think we can continue on this conversation. So, listen, thank you guys both. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.